Today, we have the pleasure of speaking with Michelle Routhenstein. Michelle Routhenstein is a registered dietitian, nutritionist, cardiology dietitian, preventive cardiology nutritionist, and certified diabetes educator specializing in managing and preventing heart disease. While she helps clients globally enhance their diet, her nutrition practice is based in New York. She completed her nutrition dietetic training residency at New York University and has a Master of Science in Clinical Nutrition. She has more than 10 years of expertise in advising individuals and families on how to avoid and treat chronic diseases through lifestyle medicine and individualized, scientifically based diet. Michelle helps people deal with underlying causes of their cardiac disorders by treating abnormal blood work, managing chronic conditions, and optimizing dietary intake. She helps lower risk factors. Because of her vast knowledge of cardiac health, Michelle serves on the boards of numerous organizations such as the National Menopause Foundation and Forbes Health Advisory Board. Michelle has written the Truly Easy Heart Healthy Cookbook, available at all major retailers. Welcome to this interview, Michelle Routhenstein. It is an honor and a pleasure to have you with us today. My name is Dr. Pietro Aparicio from 72 Dragons Health. Michelle, how do you tailor personalized nutrition plans for patients with cardiometabolic risk factors and varying needs, such as weight management and other health issues?
Thank you so much for having me on your podcast. I'm excited to be here. So when we talk about personalizing medicine, we have to realize that heart disease is a progressive disease and it needs to be a lifestyle change. And the only way to make it a lifestyle change is by implementing a science-based nutrition plan that fits within your culture, your lifestyle, your food preferences, and ensures that it's really addressing cardiometabolic health. So with my private clients, I do a very comprehensive evaluation prior to advising them on how to integrate the science with their lifestyle to make optimal results. So this really takes into account their lab work, their medications they're on, their medical history, their family history, their work-life balance, what they do for a living, what it all looks like, because without that element, it doesn't last long term. And so we really need to assess and prioritize what we need to address first and implement it seamlessly into their lifestyle. It's about assessing, I'm very big about long-term change. So with that being said, we have to be doing this in steps. So I guide my clients on prioritizing the first 4 things and then addressing those challenges, assessing their progress, looking at their metrics, right? If someone comes to me for high blood pressure, what we're doing is we're testing their blood pressure, we're assessing their nitric oxide levels, we're assessing their potassium levels. And if we do see that these things are improving, we know that we are addressing their cardiometabolic issues. But really explaining the science and then merging it into their lifestyle takes a lot of listening. So a lot of my clients get that attention because that's really how you facilitate long-term change. By understanding what's going on medically, explaining that, merging it into their likes, their lifestyle pattern, their accessibility, all of those things to provide lasting change. So when you explain that information and you start seeing your metrics go and trend in the right direction, you know that this is a positive influence on your parameters. And that's what also continues that long-term change, because you see that your hard work and efforts are yielding fruitful results. And so I'm really there as a partner with my clients to understand what's going on and looking at the whole picture of things. When it comes to cardiovascular disease, we're not just looking at cholesterol. We're looking at inflammation. We're looking at abdominal adiposity. We're looking at blood pressure and blood sugar and triglycerides and atherogenic LDL cholesterol, because all of these things, if they're not optimized, can cause havoc in the blood vessel, and that can put extra strain on the cardiovascular system. So I'm really there to explain what's going on in the blood vessel, how nutrition has a role, but really listening to say, how do we implement this into your lifestyle so it's easy, seamless, enjoyable, gives you more energy, allows you to do the things you love to do more, so that it can last long term. Because any diet you go on for a couple weeks, couple months, doesn't protect your heart. It's what we consistently do in our lifetime that's so important to help keep our arteries clean, our heart pumping well, and our electrical system working in sinus rhythm.
Thank you. So it's more than diet, it's a really holistic approach to disease or helping the client or the patient. Now, your Instagram account highlights a recent International Women's Day webinar where you discussed women's heart and bone health. Could you share the key risk factors women should be aware of and the essential nutrients they should prioritize in their diet?
Yeah, so we have to realize that women and men have different risk factors for cardiovascular disease. In women specifically, a lot of it is in the microvascular system, so it's not as easily diagnosed, and oftentimes it's misdiagnosed because we do a lot of testing in the larger blood vessels. But we also know that as women age and estrogen declines, estrogen is protective. So we do see an increase in cardiovascular disease during the perimenopausal transition. And a lot of times women have a lot of body fat distribution that goes into their abdominal region during menopause, leading to an increase in inflammation, insulin resistance, an increase in LDL cholesterol and blood sugar levels and blood pressure. Our arteries are not as elastic with the depletion in estrogen. This is not to say that heart disease is inevitable in women. It just means we need to be aware that our risk factor goes up, and we need to take proactive action to make sure that we are staying on top of our numbers and optimizing them through science-based nutrition. And the first thing a lot of times people think is, oh wow, I gained so much weight, I'm gonna go on this caloric deprivation, I'm gonna go on a diet to make sure that I lose this weight. But they're not realizing that we need essential nutrients as we age, and our needs sometimes actually get higher. And so if we go on a very restrictive diet, what ends up happening is it actually can be more detrimental. One of the main risk factors in women especially is osteopenia and osteoporosis, because if we're not getting adequate amounts of calcium and it's leaching from our bones, that can actually cause vascular calcification as well. So we need to make sure that we are addressing bone health and looking at calcium, but also vitamin K2 and magnesium and potassium and adequate protein to keep our bones strong, but also to provide the nutrients our body needs so that it can thrive and so that we can functionally age and really thrive as we get older.
Very important. Thank you. Now, how have popular social media platforms such as Instagram contributed to your growth as a dietitian and helped you attract clients to your practice?
So I love social media because I can deliver my message more. And my biggest message is really for people to take action as early as possible. You know, when I was in my dietetic residency, I was in the liver clinic, the kidney clinic, the ICU, the cardiac clinic, every type of clinic. And there was this underlying issue of heart disease in every single population. And I took a step back and I said, why is this? And when you look at the data, it shows heart disease is the #1 killer globally with over all cancers combined. And 80% of it is preventable. So, I asked the doctors during my residency, why is this? And the doctor would say, oh, patients are non-compliant. And I go, no, patients want to live. It's not they're non-compliant. There's a unknown that people are at risk of heart disease. Heart disease silently brews. And there's so many risk factors that we don't feel. Borderline high blood pressure, high cholesterol, high blood sugar levels. We don't feel these things per se. And then over years and decades of it being elevated, it causes plaque to form. It causes strain on our cardiovascular system. And so my social media platforms is really there to empower individuals to say, listen, you have an ability to lower your risk of complications related to heart disease if you take action. So I love using my social media to deliver this message of positivity and awareness. So people are taking their blood pressure at home. People are getting their blood work, optimizing it to target levels, knowing what target levels are, so they can be a true advocate for themselves and optimize their heart health to reduce heart disease. We know heart disease could be eradicated if we took earlier action. So this is where my social media comes to play, is more to just influence people to take a proactive approach in their heart health.
Thank you. So silence diseases that can, after a time, really create serious problems. Now, could you explain how menopause contributes to an increased risk of heart disease in women? And how do you address this topic with clients, given that menstruation remains a taboo subject in many societies?
Yeah, so like I mentioned previously, when estrogen is protective, it makes our arteries more elastic. It helps with protecting our heart health. And as it declines, a lot of our risk factors go up. It doesn't mean that it's inevitable. It just means that we need to be monitoring blood pressure during this transition. We need to be monitoring your cholesterol levels, your blood sugar levels. We need to be measuring your waist circumference and really focusing on a nutrient adequate, anti-inflammatory diet that addresses all of cardiometabolic health. So I think that it should be more of an empowering approach. A lot of times people look at menopause as this negative transition, but it's more of this, a different transition into a different part of our lives where we can give so much more, and we reshape what our body is doing. So as women, it should be looked at as, okay, my risk does increase because I had a little protection before, and that just means I need to be on top of this. I need to really be focusing on what am I nourishing my body with, and also looking at physical activity. Are we doing resistance training with aerobic activity? Are we managing our sleep? Are we getting 7 to 8 hours of good quality and quantity sleep? Are we looking at stress and social connections, and our laughter, our meditation practice, our mind-body connection? There's so many things that oftentimes get neglected, and then once we hit into the menopause transition, women are like, I feel different in my body. And a lot of it is, okay, we can really address this through lifestyle and nutrition intervention by not going to quick fix diets, but rather focusing on a heart healthy diet that addresses cardiometabolic health. Because just because you're going in the menopause transition does not mean heart disease is inevitable. It means your risk increases. So in order to reduce that risk, we need to be proactive and be monitoring these values so that we can take action as early as possible.
Thank you for sharing that. Now, could you share your experiences and contributions as a member of the National Menopause Foundation and the Forbes Health Advisory Board? How have these roles influenced your work in nutrition and health?
So I love a collaborative approach. And so when I am part of all these advisory boards, they're talking about so many different aspects of health. And I kind of hone in and say, okay, we need to really also put into the literature the importance of heart disease within all of these different transitions in our lives. And so really putting in that perspective and learning from other individuals, but also making sure that everyone's taking a whole person approach and also realizing that connection of heart health. because for instance, when I'm on the menopause board, there's a lot of individuals in there who are, bone specialists, they're in they're OBGYN, they're in different elements. And while they're focusing on certain aspects of menopause, I kind of bring in and say, yes, now let's put that also into the perspective of how heart disease does increase too, and how we can add that into the conversation. So it's really a great place for me to really put my voice, but also for them to kind of bring in their voice and their aspects. So it's a collaboration. And I just love that, because we should be having a collaborative approach in order to really help more individuals with optimizing their health.
Great collaboration. That's extremely important. Michelle Routhenstein, thank you for sharing your views and wisdom on nutrition and diet and their effect on the cardiovascular system, menopause, and overall health. We wish you all the best in all your future endeavors. Thank you.
Thank you for having me.